Hi friends, hello everyone. Happy Wednesday, my day that I always get to hang out with you all on Instagram Live. It's Wind Down Wednesday, which means pour yourself a glass. We're gonna get into it with our really good friend Arielle. You've probably actually seen, if you have shopped Ori, you've seen her on the site. She's a beautiful model and a fantastic personality to follow on Instagram because her content's great. She's a poet. She does some cool spoken word poetry stuff. And she's just like stunning. So there's that. And she is also a plus size babe who just got married in the middle of this coronavirus pandemic. She was like, you know, we're going to just move forward with this wedding. And she has the disco ball still hanging in her living room from the Zoom reception as a memento, which I love. So she's going to be joining us in just a few moments. But in the meantime, if you guys are tuning in and you yourself have been a bride or will be a bride soon and have navigated the choppy waters of shopping for a plus size wedding dress, tell us about it. Because in our Facebook group, which is fantastic, and you all should join. It's called Plus Size Group Chat. In our Facebook group, there has been some chatter around what it's like to shop for a wedding dress as a plus size woman, and frankly, it can be a little bit challenging. So if you have experience, definitely let us know. Hi, Regina the Southernista, my friend Regina. Hi, Marsha. Hi, Urban Dweller. Hi, Shaynall21. Good to see you all. Regina, I hope you're feeling better. I saw your post that you weren't feeling well today, so I hope that you're on the mend because those beautiful shoes aren't going to wear themselves. Suze M, hello. I'm waiting for our friend Arielle to hop on, but in the meantime, we're going to be talking all about what it's like to shop for plus size wedding dresses, what it's like to be a plus size bride. So if you guys have experience with that, if you've shopped for wedding dresses, let us know. If you had a wedding recently, or if you're like me and you have so many wedding invitations on the fridge, half of them have been rescheduled, half of them are still up in the air, and you're like, what? Regina, I'm so sorry to hear that you tested positive for the virus. But I hope that you can get some rest and definitely stay home from work. I've seen you in the office, girl, with those beautiful outfits. So definitely, you know, get the rest that you need, Regina. I hope that you can be on the mend soon. Thank you, Katie. Regina, how are you going to wear beautiful shoes if you're sick? That's what I want to know. They're going to have to wait 14 days? Too long. All right, Arielle, she is here. And I'm so excited for you guys to get to meet Arielle. Here, it's connecting. Hi,
Hi.
Arielle. Oh my gosh, you look so cute with your hat.
Oh, thanks. It's to avoid the fact that my hair is doing a lot of things today.
That's what hats are made for.
That's what hats are for. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I'm so excited that you're here. I was chatting with our audience about everything regards to being a plus size bride and how different it can be. So excited to talk to you about your recent Corona bride moment.
I love it. Corona. I know. Married in a pandemic. Why not?
Right? Why not?
Yeah. It is wild.
I love it. Wait, before we get to the story of your wedding, would you mind telling us a little bit about how you and your now husband met and got to know each other?
Yeah, we actually met on Instagram. So his sister had been following me before and then sent John a video of me doing poetry in a sunflower field, and he started following me from that. And then we like messaged a little bit here and there, and I initiated the conversation. I was like, hey, I host an open mic. You should come perform at it, because he was a poet. He's a poet, or he writes as well. And so, yeah, we met because I slid in the DMs. So that is that is how we met.
This is amazing. There are a few takeaways I have from this. Okay, number one, welcome to millennial dating.
Yeah. Truly.
Happens on
Truly.
social media.
Yes.
Number two, girls need to slide into DMs first.
It's true. I mean, I'm all for like pursue me, you know, like I'm all for initiate, but at the same time, I was just interested in getting to know him. I also genuinely needed guys to perform at my open mic. And so it was like strictly like, and initially it was strictly more professional on my end, but I was like interested. I was curious about him. And he kept up the conversation and asked intentional questions. And so even though I like initiated or like reached out first, there was still this like intention and pursuit behind how he interacted with me, which I really love. So that was like new territory for me, like asking guys or initiating conversations. I was very not that before. And so yeah, I guess it worked out in my favor. So
I think there's something about it. I think as women, we're often like used to playing defense when it comes to dating, you know?
Right.
And feeling pursued, and
yeah,
I
and
think
guys
that
want to be
like
pursued too, so that's
we're
something
allowed to
too.
pursue what we want to.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys also want to feel like they're wanted, you know, like they're being pursued too. And so I think there's like a balance. There's a balance to
Totally.
it.
Well,
Yeah.
and you already had a mutual interest, of course, poetry.
Yes,
And
of
that
course.
makes it obviously much easier to have something to talk about, I'm sure.
Yeah, and that was like in his bio. So instantly I was like, oh, he writes poetry. I can ask him to come to my open mic, you know? And so that was like a good segue, but then it turned into music and other artistry and things like that. And it was the best. Like our conversations to this day are still one of my favorite parts of our relationship.
Aww,
Yeah.
that's so sweet. How long ago did you guys meet?
We met 2 years, babe. I'm like asking him. We met like in 2018, like early 2018. So
Okay, cool.
not too long ago, but also it was like fairly instant once we did start dating. Yeah.
Aw,
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so I'm okay. Let's like rewind to January, let's say.
Yeah.
So you were about what, like 5 months out from this wedding date, and what was like on your mind at the time?
Yeah, well, I mean, we were in like making sure, you know, details. So like, does everyone have their suit? You know, does everyone have like the little things that you don't really think of? Like, and I'm definitely a more aesthetic driven person. So I'm like, oh, do we have a cute vow book? You know, do we have like these different things? And so we were, you know, getting into like the week before actually we went into Safer at Home. We were having a conversation with like booking a bartender and like little details like that. The venue comes with a lot, so there was a huge part of it that we didn't have to plan just because of what she already had accessible. But there are other pieces like videographer, things like that. So figuring out videography, mostly just saving up, you know, to make sure we have food and things like that we need, and other little expenses, being able to say thank you to people who are like, no, don't charge us. We just want to be a part of your special day, but also still wanting to like give some thanks to. And so we were in, like, I had a folder, I had the binder of checklists, and we were going through those motions and talking with a planner and like texting her about little things. And so the Friday before we went into Safer at Home, I actually was supposed to have like a creative meeting with my planner, photographer, and videographer at the venue. And we were like, yeah, I think it's safe to say we probably don't need to do this right now. And so, yeah, we were like mid breath planning, if you will. And it was just kind of like, all right, we might have to pause some of these things. Yeah.
So were you thinking at that time, like right before we all started really quarantining, were you thinking at that time like, okay, so I can't meet, you know, the planner at the venue. I can't like, but in a few weeks we'll get back on track?
No, I mean, the biggest part of it for me is I'm completely freelanced. I'm like my whole work, all my work is freelance or contracted work. So being told that like 4 of your conferences are being canceled this year, that in itself was like the
Okay.
money part of it was like a huge part of it. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that's a huge chunk of money, that was like going
Right.
towards this wedding that we don't have now. And so, and John was saving up and things like that. So we were like meeting at a certain number between the both of us. And with the events being canceled, it was kind of like, can we get married at all in May?
Right.
Like pandemic or not? Well, obviously because of the pandemic, but like just financially. And then the second
Right.
wave of it was being intentional of the susceptible people that we have in our family, and being intentional with that. And so we're like, do we surround those people with 200 other people?
Right.
And what does that look like? And so there was a lot of layers to it, but it was mostly the financial one that was like, there's no way we're getting married on the scale we intended this May. Like, that's not happening. And so
Yeah.
had the conversation with our event host, and we're like, can we do next year? Like, can we just reserve next year instead? And we did that. But then after that, it was like, but we still want to be married now. Like, we're not trying to wait a year, to be
Yeah.
married. And so the more things went, one of our things that we like to do while being safer at home was just to go on drives and just be in a car, go through a drive-through, and then come back home. And so we made one of our drives be to Pismo Beach just to scout out places, because my family's in Northern California, and so we were trying to find a middle ground. So we're like, let's just go look. We found a place where we're like, okay, this could work. And that was like a month before. And we're like,
Oh
we
my
don't
gosh.
really have details, but like, here's a park beach that could work. Like, we really don't know what this is going to look like. And so we really just went week by week. And luckily by then, the beaches started opening up, parks started opening up with like very close regulations. And we're like, okay, so at least we won't get like in trouble for being at a park right now,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, there was a
and
period of time where you couldn't even
where
be at a
you couldn't
park.
be at a park. And so
Ugh.
we were like really realizing, the weight of that, and the potential of that. And again, like, people wore their mask, we social distance as much as possible, because it's a huge park and we were outside. And so yeah, it definitely was like week by week we were like, okay, we can add a little bit more. Okay, we can order things on Amazon, like things like
Yeah.
that. But it definitely was just like week by week, moment by moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at what point did you say, like, all right, can we do next year for this reception, for this venue? Because I don't think it's going to work. Like, how far out from the wedding were you when you were able
This
to make
was
that
like this was probably like March, April.
Okay, so
This
your
was
wedding was
pretty,
in May, and like
yeah,
March,
this was
April, you were like,
pretty early on. Once, like, financially we knew the rest of this year was going to look different, that's where we really started to scale back and be like, realistically, with me
yeah,
not working as much as I am with my travel and things like that, like, can we actually do this? So
right.
that was a huge part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So you decided, okay, reception next year to give us some time to save.
Yeah.
We're still gonna have this ceremony. Maybe we don't know where, but we're gonna drive up the coast and maybe find a spot.
Yes.
And so the whole time you guys were in agreement, like, yeah, we can't have this reception. It's not feasible, but let's still get married.
But we're still getting married. Yeah, he was very, like, I definitely was like really struggling with like, this is not a real wedding, like, this is not the real thing. And he was like, I want to be married to you, like, and that's gonna be wherever we exchange vows, however we exchange vows. And so I really had to like start to shape myself and not call it the real thing, because it was very real. And we signed the paperwork, and I mean, everything was still closed, so we like got our marriage license in the parking lot of the Honda Center, and they had like these stations for you to like make an appointment and go up to and get your marriage paperwork, and then do all the paperwork stuff on the day of the wedding. And then we gave it to our officiant and like put it in the mail. And so like those things happened, like that was the legitimacy of it. We just didn't get to be with all 200 of the people that
it just
we
wasn't
thought we
what
were
you
going
had
to be
been
with.
picturing and dreaming about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how did that, what was it like for you to justify that in your brain? Like, you'd picture this, and I'm sure, like, as so many of us girls do, like, grow up like dreaming, what's this wedding going to be like? And then suddenly, I mean, pretty suddenly, you had to like drop that dream and pivot and decide, okay, it's fine that we're just gonna get married at this beach that we just went to one time
Yeah.
without everyone around us, and it's gonna be
Yeah.
okay, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna maybe still not call it the real wedding.
Totally. Well, I mean, a lot of it was a lot of grieving. Like I had to grieve the whole thing. I had
Yeah.
to grieve the venue. I had to grieve not having everybody there. You know, I had to grieve not having a traditional shower and
Yeah.
bachelorette and all those things. Like there was waves of grief with every new event or new space where you're like, oh, this was supposed to be this weekend, you know, or this was supposed to happen here. And so
Yeah.
there was in the pivoting, there was still a lot of grieving, but I'm also a creative. So I'm really good with just thinking on my feet. I'm really good with being like, we could do this and this will work great and we can make it beautiful. And so we still have our photographer and our videographer agreed to be with us, which was a huge blessing, and our floors as well. And so we were able to have like the little elements that I think mattered to me. And that was
Yeah.
like the biggest thing was just
That
like
made
what
it feel like
matters the
it's a
most.
wedding.
Yeah, like what matters the most was really the question we had to keep asking ourselves. And what mattered the most was making sure our family was there. You know, what mattered the most was that my sisters could stand with me, you know, or
Right.
next to me or whatever, or what have you. And so that was what was most important. And so you're like, okay, then everything else must go. And the thing that's most important, or the things that are most important, take the precedent. And so there was definitely ways of grieving in the pivoting, but then there's also like, okay, what matters here? Like what actually matters here? And asking yourself that question every single day. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I like that you're calling it grieving, because I think that it's I mean, it's true, right? I think we think of
Yeah.
grieving as like this narrowly defined thing, but like, you know, you have to, many people are grieving vacations that they had been dreaming about forever,
Mm-hmm.
weddings, of
Yeah.
course. And like
Yeah.
for you to be, pouring so much energy and love into this future event that you're so
Yeah.
excited about, and then have to like slowly like say goodbye, really, to
Yeah,
so much of it.
absolutely. Well, I mean, grieving is something we experience anytime there's an aspect of loss that's taking
Right.
place. So for a lot of us, in a lot of different ways, either with the pandemic or with the racial injustices that are happening, or with
Absolutely.
little events like graduations and weddings and things like that, we're all experiencing immense amount of loss right now. A lot of people, small businesses, you know, not being able to pick back up. We're experiencing loss every day. And so when it comes to grieving, those 5 stages of grief will adapt and will happen anytime there's that level of I'm experiencing a loss here, where our mind and our body is feeling like there's something being taken away, you
Yeah.
know, whether that's expectation, whether that's a physical person, whether that's you know, a mindset or a goal or a dream or a plan, whatever that is, you will experience levels of grief. And there was moments where I was like, this is not how it was supposed to be, you know, like very sad about it, very angry about it, bargaining, you know, like, well, maybe we could do this, well, maybe we could do that, and that on loop. But a lot of it was just like, no, what matters here, and even though this is not how I planned it, can it still be beautiful? And I'm an Enneagram 4, so I'm like, you can make anything beautiful, and really making that happen. Like this could literally be exactly and whatever it is that you want, and it ended up being above and beyond just like anything I could have imagined, and it was perfect. It was very perfect. Yeah.
Aw, I love
Yeah.
that. Well, and
Yeah.
like, what a weird, unique, interesting story you're
Totally.
gonna tell your children
Oh
and your family
yeah,
forever. I mean,
absolutely.
we got married in the middle of the
Of a
coronavirus
pandemic, yeah.
pandemic.
Well, my husband is going to school to be a history teacher, and so it's like they're gonna be like, "What'd you do in this time?" And we're like, "Oh well, we got married," you know. And even with like later on, John was like, what are we gonna tell our kids? Like when they ask us where to get a marriage license, we're gonna be like, "We don't know. We got it at the Honda Center in the parking lot," you know. Like we're not gonna know like the normal way. We know what we've been adapted to in this current
Right.
reality that we're sitting in, and it will definitely be a story. Most definitely be
Oh
a
my God,
story.
it already is.
Yeah, yeah, it already is. It definitely is a story.
I
Yeah.
love it. Well, I mean, it definitely makes it more special, more unique. I'm sure, even with all of the
Yeah.
loss and all of the pivoting, it makes it more special and more unique, even though it's,
Agreed.
you know, hard.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed.
And okay, going back even further, because I have not gone through this whole wedding checklist that I know is so critical. When did you start looking for your dress, and when did you find it?
Yeah, well, we got engaged in November, so things happened pretty quickly. So we got engaged in November. I did my dress fitting in March or like March-ish, April, and set up my appointment. I got my address from Beholden, set up my appointment, and they let you have a certain amount of people there with you, which was super fun. And so I had my mom and my sister and his sister and a few friends, and it was like perfect. They give you like macaroons and like champagne or sparkling water if you want it, so it's like a whole vibe. And I tried on, oh my gosh, like 5 or 6 different dresses. And each one you're like assessing. So you're like, oh, I like this bodice, but I don't like these straps, or I like this bottom, but I don't like the texture or whatever. And you're just like taking in each dress, and each one felt like, okay, this could work. This could work. They all could work, but they didn't feel like the dress. And then I tried on the last one, and as I had like I forget what you call her, but she's the person who's running my appointment with me. So she's like a stylist. And so she's helping me try on all the dresses and everything. And she puts on the last one, and she's like, I think you're really going to like this one. In hearing how you described all the other dresses, she was like, I feel like you were all together piecing this dress. And I was like, oh, interesting. So I like tried on, and I had to like do like somewhat of a double take. I had to like look back at it, and I was like, oh, this one's making me like feel something, I was like, okay, this is different. And then I go out, and like all my friends are like, oh my gosh, yes, like, oh wow, this one's great. And I noticed like I start twirling in it, and then all of a sudden I just start like tears just start falling.
Oh my gosh.
It's this moment where, like, for me at least, I could actually imagine the moment happening, of actually being in the dress, and it's sized and fitted for you, and you're walking, towards your future and the rest of your life. And it was like all of that started flashing before me. And so I'm facing the mirror. All my friends and family are behind me, and I'm starting to cry. And then I hear my mom say, yep, that's it. And she's crying. And then we like look over, and my best friend is like, oh, her mom's crying. And she like looks over, and my stylist is like crying.
Oh,
and
my
so
gosh.
like everyone is crying. And it was just this moment where it's like we all knew, like that was it. And so getting it back was like from the tailor and adjusted and all that fun stuff. It was like, oh, this is it. This is the dress, And so it was a very emotional, and I'm not saying that that's the way it is for everyone, but it was definitely for me. It was like this very full circle moment where I could imagine everything happening. And it was like, oh, wow, this is incredible. Yeah.
Wow. So even though you didn't get that traditional wedding, you got a pretty textbook perfect wedding dress shopping experience.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was like, and even that was like, so did the fitting, and it was great. And then it was like, okay, hopefully we can get your dress to you in time. So that was like the first wave of COVID meets industry things that I encountered. They were like,
I'm
our
surprised
factories.
you were even able to shop in person for the dress.
Yeah, because that was like April, March. April, I'm trying to think. We've been in quarantine since March. So then I did my dress fitting like
early March, maybe.
What did you say, babe?
January. Thank you. So I did my dress fitting in January, apparently. And then it was fitted. We knew the dress and everything, but it was like it making it and getting to me in time was like around March, April. And I was like, okay, we're going to hope that we can get this dress to you. And I got my dress 2 weeks before the wedding.
Wow.
2 weeks. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But like I, I've seen a lot of say yes to the dress.
Yeah.
And there's often that moment, right? That aha moment that like your breath catches and you start tearing up and and I think, obviously, even just watching those sometimes, depending on, if I'm on my period or sleepy, I'll just start crying.
Yes. Valid.
But I mean, I also have heard a lot of brides say, like, don't like wait for that aha moment because it might not
happen. Well, like I said, it was the last dress. So I was like, and she was like, we have 15 minutes left in your appointment. So I'm thinking, oh, I'm not walking out of here choosing a dress. Like I was at that point by the end of the appointment. And it was literally that last dress where I was like, oh, this is the moment, but I was also fully prepared for it not to happen and to have to come back maybe less with not people, not with a lot of people and not as a whole thing, but just like me, my mom, and maybe a friend or someone, just to try on dresses and find the one. But I definitely got, up until like 5-6 dresses and was thinking like, oh, I probably actually won't find my dress today until that last moment. And so definitely don't go into it with that pressure, but like I'm a very like deep knowing, discerning person, and so I went into it knowing I would find at least a dress. I didn't go into it thinking I'm gonna have this whole emotional moment to it, but I knew I was going to find my dress that day. So that was like a pretty sure feeling that
you were confident going into it.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a big part of it. I think if you're a little, maybe, a little wary going into it, might be harder to find.
Totally. Yeah.
So much of shopping is so emotional.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Cause you're like, oh, and also knowing like a lot of times when you try on dresses, you're trying on samples. So you're not necessarily going to always try on a dress that is your size, that fits you. You're trying on the style more than you're trying on anything else. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so happy to hear that you got those like full champagne, your girlfriend, your mom in tears, your stylist in tears, all of that, like, and without face masks and, able to just have that full experience. Yeah. I'm sure it looks totally different at this
moment. Absolutely. My friend actually just went and went and found dresses. And at first she had booked an appointment, but then that's when everything shut down. And then she came back. So she was with 2 other people and everyone was in mask, and she got to take it off just because it does change how you see the dress a lot. So even when I went back for my fitting, I had my mask on. He was like, I'll step back. Like you could take the mask off just so you can actually see yourself in the dress without the mask. And so there is definitely ways to do it. It does look very different right now.
Yeah. I'm sure. And I'm sure it also probably depends state to state, county to county, city to city.
Absolutely.
What the restrictions look like. But I'm really like, even though I think that the brides who are planning, 2021 weddings or whatever, maybe are struggling right now with this fitting part, but then they'll have the more traditional wedding style hopefully come next year. And you had seriously the most textbook like wedding dress shopping experience I've ever heard, and then had a super unconventional wedding.
Yep. Very valid. Very valid. Yes. Yeah, that's exactly.
I love that. That's so funny. Okay, wait. Tell me more about your wedding. So obviously we heard you got married at Pismo Beach in this beautiful, I've seen the photos. They're stunning.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. And you had your creative friends. So you had the florist there. So you had beautiful flowers and you had beautiful photos and videos. But what else did it look like? Your sisters were there. Who else was with you? And then what did the reception look like?
Well, my family I'm like the oldest of 5. So my family alone is like 8 people. So it was my family and then John's family and mostly our siblings and our parents. And then we had like a few close friends who would have been our bridal party there. That was pretty much it. So there was like maybe 25 of us like all scattered around a park. And so we did the ceremony like in this little section of the beach and beach park. It's like a park that overlooks the beach. And so we had like a little carpet there and everything. And it was like a whole little corner setup that was perfect. We gave people balloons, bubbles for our exit. So in some of the pictures, you can see like hints of bubbles in the background, which is super cute. And then we went and took pictures And then we went to In-N-Out after, and it was perfect. We all had our In-N-Out, and we sat, at there, like we pretty much took out the whole outside patio, and we had In-N-Out and just talked and went to different people, and took pictures, and some people brought cards and gifts. And then we actually stayed in Pismo for 2 nights just to make it feel like we were away from Pasadena. And it was perfect, but it was, like I said, it was definitely not our 200 people, but it was the people who mattered the most to us, in that moment, and who we wanted to make sure were there, and who also made sure to be there. And it was ended with In-N-Out, and it was perfect.
Anything that ends with In-N-Out is a good day.
Truly, truly, truly. Yeah.
I actually was thinking, I've seen your In-N-Out pictures, iconic.
The
other person I saw do a similar thing was Hunter McGrady.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
In her beautiful dress with
And you're like, In-N-Out burger. Yeah. Honestly, by that time you're like ravishing. So you're like, I'll take 2 doubles. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love it. Ending it with In-N-Out. So when did you have the reception? Did you have it a couple days later?
We had it a week later, actually.
Okay.
Because my uncle actually passed away the next day.
Oh my gosh.
And so there was like a wave of like a lot of grieving and things like that in that weekend alone. And so it was like definitely a separate space, like I said, of the grieving of like Thursday and Friday were for grieving, Saturday was for celebrating, and Sunday was for both a little bit. And so sitting in that, and so we're like, let's do a week later, give people another Saturday evening to try and schedule it. And so we had sent out an email earlier to our guests, and we're like, here's the Zoom link. Like, we hope you join us. You're welcome to dress up if you want to. And then we coordinated with our DJ, who would have been our DJ at our wedding anyway. And we're like, have you ever done like spun on like Zoom before? And so we like told him like, oh, we want a first dance song. Here's our first dance song. And then the rest was just like, play whatever you want, Oh, you can't. I can hear you, kind of.
Yeah, I'm headed to Target now. To get a pair of shoes.
Can you hear me? Hello. How about...
Are we back?
Yeah, that was very
I can hear you.
strange.
Okay, great.
I heard like
Remember
a
how I
whole...
was telling you earlier how I miss having interactions without technical difficulties?
Yeah.
I miss
This
that.
is it. Yeah. That was so strange because I heard like someone else's phone call, or like someone else like in like a guy in my ear was like a walkie-talkie. He was like, yeah, I'm on my way to Target now. And I was like, yeah, same dude, but not really. But that was very strange.
Weird. Okay, super weird.
How strange.
Anyways,
yes. So we
you
coordinated with our
later.
DJ. Mm-hmm.
And wait, what family member of yours passed?
My uncle.
Your uncle. So you got your wedding in just in time for your uncle to
barely
get to hear about it.
Well, he actually went into the hospital Thursday, and was pretty much comatose at that point. And so he wasn't physically there. I mean, like, we could spiritually feel him, but physically no. And so it was just like talking to him about it,
Yeah.
but he didn't physically get to be there, which was really hard. But yeah,
I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad that you guys were able to navigate it so beautifully. It sounds like you gave it some space and we're still able to come together as a family. And
definitely finding room for both grief and celebration, all in the same breath, sometimes in the same moment, and learning how to give each one the room and the space it deserves in each moment. And so it was hard, but it was also like, but you're married. It was this very strange back and forth emotional aspect. Yeah,
seriously.
yeah.
And okay, so DJ was ready. DJ was
DJ
like,
was ready.
yes,
Yes.
I haven't, wait, had he spun on Zoom before?
He had not spun on Zoom before, and he's a very technical person. So he'd actually like had a call with other friends who knew how to set up his sound equipment and do all the things on Zoom. And then we had a few friends, we send them the link and we're like, hey, can you do a sound check with us today? And so we did a quick sound check. And then, we set up everything in our living room. My mom had like put a backdrop in our apartment of like, congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Corfy. And earlier that like week before, I had balloons up because my friends had done like a virtual bachelorette kind of thing, but then also two friends who physically were here were like in masks, like putting up a balloon arch in my apartment. And so that was already up. And then we had the congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Corfy that my mom put up. And then we bought a disco ball off of Amazon, and like we put that like in the middle of our living room. So we just like had
oh my gosh, I love it.
just
Look at the
like
ball.
Sitting in the middle. I literally just recently took it down, even though it's been like a long time, because it was so fun just to have like this. So every time I came home, it was just like this little thing just
I
like
love that
in our living room. And so we had the disco ball and a little like disco light and reflecting, and it was like a whole vibe. It was so perfect. It was so perfect.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so fun. And so were all of your guests on the Zoom just
yeah so everyone was like in their own screen. Some of them were like, we do not want to be seen, but we are like chatting and we're here. And then there's some of like, we have a lot of family friends, and so a lot of families with their kids were like dancing on the Zoom, and it was like super cute. And so we like would flash each person's screen every once in a while, and then we'd have our screen like they were dancing with us. And we did a first dance, and then after that we just like danced for like 2 hours, and it was perfect.
oh my gosh.
Yeah it was
That's
so fun.
And
so
are you
Zoom
still gonna
receptions.
have like energy to dance next year?
Oh, most definitely. I will always have energy to dance. My favorite thing is dancing at weddings. So obviously one of my top favorites would be dancing at my own. So
yes,
yeah,
of
always
course.
down
Dancing
to
at a wedding is the best time.
It is. It really is. It's so fun.
That's so cool. So is everyone still game for your next year, your 2021 1-year anniversary reception?
Absolutely. So as of right now, we really don't know what events and what being in public gatherings look like, in the next year. So again, that will be another wave of taking it moment by moment. But for the most part, there will be some type of tacos, some type of cake, and it will be very fun. So yeah.
Two are my favorite food groups. Very important.
Tacos and cake. Perfect.
Oh my gosh. That's so fun. So I just love that you guys were like, I still want a reception, but I still want to get married. So let's have both. And you're having both. We
had both. Yeah.
So amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And then next year it'll really be, of course, weddings are always a celebration of love, but this is a celebration of your marriage.
1 year of love. Yeah, which is kind of fun, I think, to celebrate 1 year. I'm like, that's where we really should be celebrating. Maybe not like you said yes, but it's like, did you say yes? And like, how's it been, for a year? And so it'll be kind of fun to celebrate our 1 year with other people, and with people who we've been like, either social distance with or doing life with just over the years for both of us. And so there are definitely very big parts of our life that we're like, okay, in a different setting, they would have been able to be there, and so giving the opportunity to still be there. And we keep calling it the party. It's mostly the party that's happening in a year, but the wedding already happened. Yeah.
The party. The
fun part.
Everyone's excited for anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I love that you were able to truly make the most of quarantine. And so with all of this constant pivoting, how's like your stress and anxiety been?
Yeah, well, it definitely goes in waves. I definitely stopped asking people like, how are they? Because I'm just like, what even is that question anymore. And usually I'm like, in this moment, I'm okay, or in this moment, I'm not okay. Ask me in an hour, ask me in 2 hours. I don't know how I'm going to be. But right now in this present moment, I'm breathing, I'm alive. But I mean, we're in a pandemic on top of like one of the, biggest racial conversations that we've ever been in as a society, I think. And so there's a lot of layers, which hence the grieving earlier, coming back to the waves of grieving, coming back to the waves of stepping back, get logging off, and going, my husband and I will be like going on walks, and they're just oftentimes we'll switch off. I'm like, I'll leave my phone, or he'll leave his phone, or whatever. And just like taking that time to just like listen to your body, to listen to what you need and what you don't need, and being really intentional with those. And so in this present moment, I'm like, I'm okay. I found this shelf from IKEA that I've been trying to find for 2 months, and finally I got it. So like we're working on my office and things like that, which are exciting. Building a home together brings me a lot of joy, and makes me very excited about life. And it is something I'm creating, whereas the world is doing what the world is doing, and I don't necessarily have a whole lot of control over that. And so I'm finding that balance of like building a home and listening to my body, and taking the opportunities to step back, and to step in when I can.
Yeah, I love that. It's true. It's so funny. We're all so conditioned to say, how are you? And we're also conditioned to be like, I'm fine,
good.
how are you?
Yeah, right.
I'm good, how are you?
Right, yeah, right.
And it's like, why? And
she's like an immediate response.
Yeah, and what even was that? That whole time that we pre-COVID, that we were doing that, what were we even doing that for? We weren't actually checking in with each other.
Right. No. Yeah, and now I hope we're less conditioned to have that automatic response. And honestly, being like, I'm not okay right now. And if you have the space to dive into it, or the space to just like, I recognize where you're at. I see you, and I'm gonna give you time. I'm gonna give you space. Or like, do you need me to send you $10 for ice cream right now? Like, what do you need? Do you need dinner delivered today? Like, do you need coffee tomorrow? Like, really showing up for people, and not just like the immediate, how are you? And thinking that that's sufficing as an actual check-in with people, when there is probably like a lot of needs that we could be meeting in our how are you.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think this odd time in our lives is going to have a lasting effect, and I hope that that's one of it. That we're not doing a performative "How are you?" We're not doing a performative "I'm fine, thanks."
Right.
Just to kind of make everyone less uncomfortable.
Right. Right. Yeah, but we're actually asking and actually answering authentically.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, how are you? Because things are hard.
Right. How are you, or how are you not? And I think I've definitely been trying to ask people, instead of like, hey, I'm like, hey, what brings you joy today? Like, not like, how are you? Because I don't know where you are, but is there something that brings you joy today? And if so, what is that thing? And what it could be a different thing tomorrow. But instead, or even in addition to, it's like, hey, how are you? Like, oh, I'm not doing great. Then dive into that question. But then later being up the conversation of like, okay, what could bring you joy today? Or what does bring you joy today? And I think just rephrasing the conversation just so that we can find little opportunities to find joy in each and every day. Because there are little things, whether we think we're cautious of them or not. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's a tricky time too, I think, because I think a lot of us are almost, what's the right word? Not afraid, but maybe feel a little bit like guilty for being joyful, for finding joy in our own personal little bubble, our own home, in this time where there is, so many lives are being lost from such a variety of terrifying reasons. And, the news headlines are stressful, right? And to look at the global picture of the world and say like, oh, I'm having fun painting my nails or whatever, might feel like, okay, are you not clued in, and you might even feel guilty to celebrate, like, oh my gosh, I gave myself the cutest manicure, and does everyone want to see?
Yeah, of course. and again, that like really just comes back down to balance, and it comes back to there's a way to hold celebration, and to hold those moments, without feeling like, can we just go back to the normal conversations, and not assuming that the holding the joy or holding the things that are only positive or only just like fun and self-caring are the normal things,
Yeah.
whereas everything else, the injustice and the police brutality, all those things are not normal. I
Right.
think it's time we find a balance of the two, and there's a way to protest, to sign petitions, to stand up for advocacy while also taking care of yourself. They're inclusive and they're necessary, but a lot of people don't necessarily have the privilege to be able to do both. And so acknowledging when we do, for even me, I'm like, tonight I'm like, I kind of want to paint my nails, mostly because like I need to, and also it'll give me an excuse not to be on my phone because I'm focusing on something, and so finding that balance for sure.
Yeah. I think, that's a big part of it. Katie, I know, is tuned in and quiet, but we were just talking to each other about phones, right? About how the way that I think is really hard right now is because we are so isolated from friends and family. We want to have our phone next to us all the time so that we can be
connected. Yeah.
But it also provides a huge source of stress and anxiety, and feeling the constant need to check in, and feeling the constant need to be updated and get the latest news, and and also be taking all of the right actions and doing as much as you can from your phone. And I think it's hard to sometimes just tell yourself, like, no, you can turn it off, like all the way off. And you posted about your wedding. I think you guys did some actual screenless time.
We tuned out for a few days, and it was good. Like we were interactive, but not really. Like we just took time to kind of step back, and to unplug, which, like, again, we try to do just like daily or weekly, just in some way of like, okay, dinners are without phones, or walks are without phones, or whatever that looks like, because there is such an easy excuse to just be attached and just to always be plugged in, but then we miss a lot of moments too, I think, with ourselves or with each other, and so and it's always so nice when you're like, oh wow, I haven't even thought about my phone, but it definitely takes a moment to disconnect. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I feel like, especially when you're, having a wedding where your friends and family aren't able to be next to you, and you're wanting to bring them into this moment with you, and especially tricky.
Absolutely. My dad actually went live on Facebook, I think, during our wedding, so it ended up being somewhere after the fact, but we definitely were like, as much as we can, trying not to be on phones, but people like to document. Yeah.
Well, and your dad's just so proud of you.
Oh yeah, he was so excited, and we had family friends, who like wanted to be able to be there and to be a part, so it felt like they got to be, which was really sweet. Yeah.
But it is tricky, right? Because it's like, no, be present.
But also allow other people to be present. It's
Can
tricky.
You bring everyone else in?
Yeah. It's hard. It's a hard balance. But I think there is a way to do it, and I think just finding it with each moment. Yeah,
I love that. Well, what other cute little mementos and fun things do you have from your wedding? I know you had some pretty book, right?
Yeah. Oh, I actually forgot to grab it, but we can just go.
No worries.
To my office. We
take us with you.
We had a book for our reams that we wanted to put it in, just in case like it got lost and things like that. And so we had. I'll pull that out actually, and then I'll pull these two out. So we had. I'll show you here. We had our vow books that were made on Etsy, and so they got to customize it, and they say our names on them, which were super sweet. And then this is the book that was for our, did I do it right? That were for our reams. I don't think I did it right. Oh, here it is. So it's an actual book that's carved out. And then it had like the little slots for our rings. So we kept our rings there, which was really sweet. And it's like a little magnet. And then our vow books, which were so cute.
So cute.
Yeah. So, and like we actually have to sort a lot of our wedding stuff, our wedding stuff still. Because they received like a wedding box from Maven, which is like a subscription company kind of, but for specifically brides. And so they had a bunch of really cute goodies in there, like wine glasses or champagne glasses that say his and hers, and like a bride sash. So Maven, which is a really cool company. And then we had like our individual gifts to each other, which were super sweet. And yeah, so those were like the little memorabilia that we'll also be able to use next year. And it'll be fun to like, our vows are in them. So to like see if our vows change and things like that will be really fun to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be so fun next year when, you know, it's basically the anniversary of your wedding and you're all gathering to just like look at these things and touch them again.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'll be fun. And I don't know if we'll like what I'll do with the disco ball, but I plan to keep this forever. So
I like the perch right there.
I'm like, this will be my favorite part of life from now on, for sure. Yeah.
I'm just so impressed that you guys had such a fun Zoom reception.
Yeah, it was honestly, we were like sweating from dancing so much. Like it felt like, I'm like, this is how it would have happened. Like this is, I would have taken my shoes off, my makeup would have been all over the place. Like this feels pretty real time. Like,
yeah, it feels right. Yeah,
feels pretty accurate. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool because you know I've talked with some friends about how sometimes when you have these Zoom gatherings, it kind of everyone just gets together and they're like,
totally,
you know?
And even with dancing, you're like that element was kind of there, but we're like, we're not here to like entertain you. Like there's a DJ playing and we're just gonna dance. So like if you want to do things, if you want to just have the music playing, go for it. But like we will be here on the dance floor, you know, like of our living room. But people were like, you know, doing other things or they're getting their kids ready, but it was still like part of the madness, which was even sweeter. Yeah.
No, that's so cool. That's so cool. Yeah. Cause on, my birthday was in the pandemic and my boyfriend was like, I have a surprise. And I was like, oh, it's probably a Zoom. And it was of course a Zoom. And, but everyone was like, hi, happy birthday. And then afterwards we're like, okay. Well,
yes. So like we did, my friend did a Zoom like bachelorette like thing for me, and they played games, which was like super fun. But you definitely have to make it like
for Zoom.
Interactive, because usually at parties, like if there's moments, you could go talk to other people, or you could break off into smaller groups. But in Zoom, you're just like all kind of just like there,
right?
And
you can't speak like over each other.
Yeah. Having like games or having something to do definitely is like important as we're like navigating through more Zoom things.
Yeah. Tell me about this bachelorette, because that sounds really fun that she had all kinds of Zoom games for you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where or how she came up with it, but it was like, you know, who would she rather? So like heels or sneakers, or barefoot or not, or, you know, jazz or rap, or different things about me. And then different things like same sentiment about us as a couple. And then, like I said, I had two friends who were physically here. So they came in and like put up the balloon arch, and they had brunch, like physical brunch for me and champagne. And then there was like a whole bunch of people on the call and playing games or sharing a memory of our friendship or our relationship, and things like that. And it was like, I had to actually go to my fitting. So it was only about, and like a little over an hour, but it was like still fun. And there was like games, and it was brunch and champagne. And it was like, yeah, this feels pretty right.
Perfect. No, I think that a Zoom that like, especially something like that, that's like a task Zoom, shouldn't really last too much longer than an hour anyway.
Oh, so totally. Yeah. And then you obviously don't want to like draw out moments where you're like, people are still just sitting on their screens, you know? So an hour feels like pretty efficient nowadays for things like that. Yeah.
Totally. And okay, you didn't really have a bridal shower either, right? Or did you have a Zoom one?
No, we kind of interlaced. It was like a bachelorette bridal shower Zoom kind of tied together, but and we, again, like, big number of people, and so it was like even getting that many people on like a call or
Yep.
things like that was like a stretch. And
Yep.
so yeah, we kind of just like waited. We'll just wait until, again, next year. All that just kind of got pushed until next year.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think the showers, like, they're fun, but
Yeah.
to have it on Zoom,
It's
you
just,
don't
it
need
doesn't,
two of
it's the
those.
same, it's not the same vibe. Yeah, it's not the same vibe for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, but I'm so impressed. You have made such an incredible memory out of this
Thank
insanely
you.
new and
Yeah.
stressful time in our
Yeah,
lives.
yeah. I like I said, there's a way to make something beautiful out of everything, if we're really intentional about it. And then to do that, asking the question of like, okay, well, what matters here? And doing so accordingly, planning accordingly, or making way accordingly. And so those were like the huge things of like, okay, we can make this beautiful, and what is important here, and really falling in tune with both.
What's important? A party. Is it important right now?
Probably not. Right? Yeah, like a big couple $1,000 thing. Man, I don't think we need that right now. But what is important? Being married and being together and being with our family. So let's do whatever that looks like. So yeah, definitely trial and error, but also it's just kind of fun to be like, hey, that worked. At the same time.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So cool. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, if any of you guys watching have any questions for Arielle about her really like epic, even in a small way, epic, wedding moment and everything else, like the reception, everything, let us know. But this has been so much fun talking to you and getting to hear about this. And
Thank you so much.
gosh, I'm just so impressed by the way that you navigated this tricky situation.
Thank you.
You made the most of it, and you still have that disco ball.
And still have the disco ball. Literally, I'm like, do I put it back? No, it's just fun. So fun. Amazon disco ball. I'm pretty sure it'll be the first thing that pops up.
I think I might need one. I don't have an occasion though.
$11, so it's worth it.
I'm getting one.
It's worth it. Definitely worth it.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you again, Arielle. And we're going to share this to IGTV so everyone can be able to watch it later, and you can share it with your friends and fam too.
Sweet.
But thank you again. This has been so much fun chatting with you. And
thanks for having me.
And congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.